Department. Did you see the letter dated March 9th, 2016?
Yes, I did.
And any comment on the review letter?
Well, we're going to, my comment would be that we'll meet the building code for State of New Jersey building code on all of these items.
And the correction is May 9th.
May 9th.
Board members, I just want to ask one question. There was a comment there about the firewalls, and it says the north building about 2 firewalls. Is that something you've got to agree to do?
We will have, let me go back to the plan. Due to the building code and the size of this building, we'll have 2 firewalls. There'll be one roughly here and one roughly coming here and cutting across there. So there'll be like one building here by fire area, one building here, one building here. And that's all per the building code.
So it was my understanding, and Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, that the fire department was looking for more than that? Is that correct? Or is that?
If you have the correspondence as 11 points, I think it's proper that the applicant address each one, 1, 2,
This is number 7. The site plan shows 3 firewalls in the south and center portions of the building. The site plan does not show firewalls in the north section of the building. The fire department will require 2 firewalls in the north section of the building. I will say this, we did this original drawing, it was a preliminary design. As we're now doing the working drawings, we have moved the firewalls to the north side of the building as I described, here, here. There was a wall here, but it's since been moved here. So the answer is yes.
So, because what they're commenting on is different than what we're looking at here?
Well, yes.
And would be subject to, you would stipulate or agree that all firewalls would be as per the department, the fire department, and then you'll, if they want anything more additional, you'll...
And we'll give them fire area calculations, whatever they need to prove that we're putting the firewalls in the correct location. Yes.
But what I'm asking is, whatever they're going to require, you'll agree to?
no.
Well, no. We will do whatever is required by building code.
Okay.
There we go.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. I have a question.
Okay.
Sorry. I said I'm confused. I have a question. So you said that, what I heard you say was that you moved 2 firewalls to the north section. Are there still 3 firewalls in the south section?
No, there's always been 2 firewalls. There was a firewall, I say there was a firewall here and a firewall here that made this one building. There was a firewall here that made this portion one building. There was a firewall that made that one building. We've since figured out that this firewall is okay, but this firewall had to move over here and here because this building was getting a little bit too big by fire area as required by the code. So we have moved it over here, and now we are in conformance with the code. And that frequently happens when you're doing kind of preliminary design and then you start doing construction documents.
So how many total firewalls are there?
There are 2, if you want to count how they divide the buildings, one here and one here.
Another question regarding exceeding fire requirements, which seems to be a statement that's been bandied about on several occasions, and I'm very pleased to hear that. What does that really mean? Is there something in terms that was discussed at one time where stick versus cinder block, and that instead of stick to a certain level, it's going to be cinder block to a higher level, so stick is used to a lesser extent?
I don't think there's been ever any discussion that I know of that I've been a part of that says that. It's always been a wood frame building, 4-story wood frame building with lofts.
Then what does
as
exceed
defined by
the
the
fire
building
standards
code?
really?
What's that?
What does we will exceed the fire standards really mean?
Well, I believe what we're saying is we're using an NFPA 13 sprinkler system. We could, by building code, use an NFPA 13R sprinkler system, which is a less...
There was no change whatsoever from the standard construction regarding materials being used.
No, we're using a wood frame structure. It's a 5A construction type, which is allowed by code.
Okay, not exceeding code, thank you.
That's not correct. Correct. We're doing masonry firewalls. That's what we agreed to do. Please say.
What I'd like to say is we're also using masonry firewalls instead of, which is exceeding the.
That's the kind of detail I was hoping
Yeah,
for.
okay.
Mr. Chair. My question was, since they've changed number 7, they've changed the firewalls. Has the fire department even been privy to?
They'll have to
see those
they will have to
changes?
review that also, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, just
Thank
so, and the applicant is well aware, the standards of fire code are the minimum standards. Those are the acceptable standards, and the applicant has, in good faith, shown the additional work. But you have the power of public health, safety, and welfare, and you could put that as a condition even over the applicant's objective if you so chose. It just has to be reasonable, and I think you've established all the comments of.
no, exactly, I understand that, know that, I appreciate your informing the public of that from a legal standpoint, but that's exactly, it would only be whatever additional we're asking for. If our fire department thinks it's necessary, then we would support them.
Any other questions?
Yeah, we'll open up to the public. I'm sorry, let me open up first to our professionals. We have our
System you're talking about, the advanced sprinkler system, was that in the Edgewater building? And in terms of firewalls, is it normal to have only 2 firewalls in a building this size? And how many firewalls were in the Edgewater building? Thank you.
the applicant has let me know that a later witness will do
I have
this.
no knowledge of the applicant.
Another witness will do it, go ahead. Any other further questions from the public?
Okay, give your name and address for the record, please, Ron.
Ronald Liddell, I'm Avalon Bay Community Senior Vice President, 517 Route 1 South, Suite 5500, Islin, New Jersey, 08830.
You affirm or swear that the testimony you're going to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Background?
Ron, principal of the business and
Yes, we're familiar with
about the building issues with respect to the proposal.
So I want to thank the members of the planning board for asking some very salient questions, as the members of the public have done also. And I apologize because, in full disclosure, I think my witness confused some things. So now I'm going to try to clarify some of them. In some cases, he was unaware of it, so I understand why there was some confusion. Let me deal with Mr. Rose's questions and a few amplified by others. The difference between what we're doing everywhere where there's a mid-rise building, post Edgewater, which for those of you that don't know was January 21st, 2015, there was a tragedy that we suffered and our residents suffered, including 3 of our associates, that one of the 2 buildings burned down to the ground. That building used an NFPA 13R system. Basically, R stands for residential. That building does not require, that system does not require sprinklers in attics or any interstitial spaces. That particular fire was caused as public, I'm not saying anything that's not known, by a fire that started behind a wall that ultimately spread into the attic and then across the areas throughout that particular building. Since that time, Avalon Bay has pledged to, in all similar construction buildings, to only use a 13 system. The difference, in addition to that, Avalon Bay has committed, and I said this to this board and the governing body too many months ago, to only use masonry firewalls for firewall systems in these buildings. We're not required to use masonry firewalls. The relevance of that, by the way, and it's a horrible observation, but if a building does burn down, what's left of the building? It's the stairwells, because they're masonry. So we're going to use those masonry CMU blocks in every firewall that exists throughout the building. It's a tremendous difference. The question that was asked about the codes of legislation, the legislation has not changed. It is exactly the same as it was 14, 15 months ago. We are allowed to build the exact same product we built in Edgewater and in many other communities throughout the state of New Jersey. We are the only developer that has chosen to commit to do more than the fire suppression requirements exist today. And why it didn't change, I'm not a legislator. There are people that are still looking at it. The commissioner of the DCA indicated that he did not have the authority to make the change unilaterally, and if the legislature wants to make the change, they will do it. Next, second topic. I apologize to Mrs. Jones because you asked a question that I think the answer you got confused me. So let me try to do it in my way. When the plans were submitted, the fire department, which gave a very extensive review, even though many of the comments, by the way, relate to construction drawings. They're not site plan comments. Nevertheless, we want to respond to them today, so you have the information. When that plan was submitted, there were firewalls drawn in accordance with the code. When we re-looked at it, and this is an iterative process, again, none of this is part of the site plan review. These are CDs. What I mean by that is, your building department, should we get an approval, then receives our plans and reviews them, and will not issue the building permit unless they comply with the building code. We're dealing with topics that, in my humble opinion, I was a planning board attorney, I am an attorney today, is not under the purview of the planning board, legally. But we're happy to answer those questions as best we can. I'm actually going to take up Mr. Bonder's request or suggestion to go meet with the fire department after this meeting, before our next meeting, to even clarify it further. But when those plans were submitted, they felt, the fire department felt, there were firewalls, I'm not going to look into their mind, that should have been added. Respectfully, we complied with the code. When you asked about we added 2 firewalls, what Mr. Drake tried to explain to you was, we're not, because they're not required. We shifted walls to still comply with the building code. We're doing exactly the firewalls that are required, and they're masonry firewalls. We're not short 2 firewalls. So when Mr. Bonder said, 7, 8, and 11, I want to point out that 7, we are fully compliant. I don't think that the fire department, I don't know for sure, when looking at the revised plans would have that comment anymore, because now we've revised it, and the way the fire code works is you measure space within a particular compartment. As long as the compartment doesn't exceed a size, you don't have to have a firewall. Once it exceeds that size, you put a firewall up. So that is, I think, a clarification. If not,
I did say that the fire department did not see the amended version and may not require that.
Right.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Let me deal with one other question that 3 of you commented on, because, and I did, to Naomi's credit, whisper in my witness's ear. I apologize if she's offended by that, but I think that's the way I should be doing things if I want to clarify to give you the correct information. I want to comport with as many things and apply as we can, and we'll get back to. But I do want to point out that these are mostly, in many cases, construction level comments that your building department will review at the appropriate time. Mr. Poro's comment, with all due respect to Mr. Poro, that you have the authority to exceed the building code because it's deemed the rubric of health, safety, and welfare, I respectfully disagree. We are complying and always will comply with the building code, and we're going beyond the building code on fire suppression. If for some reason this board decided to require something that's not required by any code whatsoever, because you think it's appropriate, I'm not going to comment whether we do it or not, but to just give a blanket statement that you have the ability to do that because it falls under the rubric of health, safety, and welfare, I think is a little extensive from what the planning board's authority might be. And I'll stop there for a second. Those were the fire comment questions that I wanted to clarify. I want to go on to 2 other ones if I've covered that.
First, I would appreciate the clarification, and you guys can agree to disagree.
Absolutely.